Yes, I'm finally free. We've planned this for months. Are you guys ready to crush the foundation? Yeah, hold on. I gotta quickly rush the newest MTF wave. Wait, what?
Yeah, I think I'll just go farm myself with 2000 volts of power.
Why do all of my teammates have 0 brain cells? I guess I'll just have to do everything myself. Hold on, guys. It was just a prank. Hey, are you a new SCP player or just a player looking to expand their knowledge of playing as an SCP in SCP-SL? Well then, you're in the right place, as today I'll cover everything from the basics of working together as an SCP team to covering the strengths and weaknesses of each SCP. Plus, I'll be covering some advanced strategies and tips, so without any wait, let's get right into it. Boom, you just spawned, and depending which SCP you are, you'll have multiple options on how to proceed. Usually the first best thing to do upon spawning is to say hi to your SCP chat and see who you'll be working with. And if you don't have a mic, then good luck, though in that case you can just make them aware of your presence by walking up to them in a random corridor when you see them. However, if your teammates are the ones without a mic, you can always use the player count to figure out how many teammates do you have. If the server has 7 players or less, there will be only 1 SCP. If it has between 8 and 14 players, only 2 SCPs will spawn. With 15 to 19 players, there will be 3 more SCPs, and with 20 plus players, 4 SCPs will spawn. SCP-096 and 079 can never spawn together unless the server has a lot more players and needs to spawn every SCP. And if the server has even more players than that, it will spawn the same SCP multiple times. Anyways, with all of these spawning figured out, what should you actually do when you spawn? Well, this all depends on the SCP you are. If you're SCP-079, acquiring XP is your main priority, and the start of the round is literally the perfect gold mine for it. There's endless completely unarmed and broke civilians just waiting for you to close the door in their face and then die, or for you to give away their position 24/7 until they eventually get mowed down by zombies. Getting lots of XP is essential for you in this sort if you wanna have a smooth rest of the game. It's recommended you follow 939 and 173 as they are the fastest SCPs who can also kill multiple humans at the same time for optimal XP. But also, besides this bloodlust, it's important to check out where your generators are and to keep that in mind for the future. Closing off the doors to them or hiding them in any way you can is also pretty important. But even without an 079, in 90% of cases when you spawn as an SCP, your best course of action is just speedrunning your way to light containment and killing everybody. Though how do you actually find light containment? Well, these elevators usually spawn on the edges of the map some distance away from the checkpoints. If you're SCP-096 and 106, your chamber always spawns on the edges of the map as well, meaning you'll usually have to just go left or right and you'll eventually find it. Or if you went the wrong way, you'll find the checkpoint. However, it's basically possible to get lost as 106 when you have a minimap. If you're any of these 3 SCPs, then you can actually very often spawn in spots other than the corners of the map. AKA, it will be a bit more hard to find the elevators, but if you manage to find the edge of the map, then you can still just like the other SCPs follow it until you do eventually find them. When you come down, make sure to send the elevators up to delay the escape of any human and then proceed to high population areas such as 914 or the candy room. But on your way there, don't forget to look behind you and check all of the corners of the room you go through, since experienced players often hide there to avoid you without you even realizing. Spending 1 second of your time is also recommended to give airlock a quick look, since honestly I always hide here and nobody ever checks it, so yeah, I guess I just cooked myself here. When you slaughter all of the civilians you can find in light containment, then you'll have to deal with the guards. These guards have been gearing up and preparing to eliminate you once and for all. Yeah, I'm kidding. In 80% of cases, the guards are retarded and will literally just walk into light containment as if the SCPs don't exist. And this will allow you to slaughter them with ease, unless one of them got lost somewhere in entrance zone and is now preventing the run from ending. After you're done with the guards, you can just kind of chill in heavy and finish off any civilian that somehow slipped past you. Bonus points if you send a fast SCP like 173 or 939 to patrol entrance zone. Also, if you have an 079 and he wants XP immediately, you can also kill the guards right away. It's best to use a tanky SCP to soak up damage and then for a fast SCP to slash through them when they're reloading or running. Either way, whatever you do, if there's a decent group of guards, don't send only 1 SCP to fight them, especially not 049. Unless the guards are beginners, they will just reverse into the endless corridors of the entrance zone while shooting all of their bullets into you. But one of the most important things to do in these early stages of the round is to pay attention to your surroundings. Once you made your way into heavy and back, once you randomly walked around and looked for people or fought with the guards, you should try and remember what parts of the facility can be used to your advantage. Think of it like Joker cards. Hey, hold on, you can't go through here without an elevator, I can use this as an emergency escape later on. Or hey, this room is pretty tight, which will make it heaven for close quarters combat with the MTF. Think about how you can use each and every room to your advantage later on and what elevators to keep up or down. Again, bonus points for memorizing where 079's generators and the nuke elevators are. With these memory games done and human skill for the most part, enough time should have passed for the portal or 2 of the round to begin. I like to call this part endless wave survival. Why? Well, because your dear facility will be getting swarmed by heavily armed crackheads who just want to steal and kill everything they see. How do we stop this? Well, if you wanna play like uncovered, you can just put a slowdown poop in front of the elevators and slaughter anybody that goes through them. The MTF are usually unorganized and won't go all at once, which makes your life much easier. So yeah, you can literally win the game right there and then by just camping both of the elevators, especially if they're close together. As time passes, they'll fail to get enough points by doing damage and using items, which means a mini-wave will spawn. However, unfortunately for them, it won't be a friendly mini-wave. This will lead to these guys obliterating each other and then you can just pull up to finish the job. However, if you don't want to play and win like a cover, things will get a lot more complicated. When an enemy wave first pulls up to the facility, it's best not to attack them right away. If they just enter through gate B and you show up, they will all get a neuron activation and will start to follow and shoot you. This not only exposes you to a lot of damage, but also naturally groups up all of the MTF together. You can exploit this to set up an ambush for them with a jumpscare 096 or with an 106 that will pull up and give them back shots. But if you can't bother doing an ambush, then just let the enemy enter in peace and they'll all split up by themselves, making them much easier targets. 2 guys will race for the intercom, 5 will go to the right checkpoint, 3 will go to the left one. 2 of them will take 3 minutes to change their attachments and 1 guy will get lost and so on. When they reach heavy containment, once again you should avoid immediately engaging them as this will group them together. Plus the checkpoint is one of the worst places to fight MTF. These doors can be closed, meaning they'll easily shoot you from the distance or from your side through the window. There's also many doors and open space for them to juke you, not to mention they have a pretty big stash of ammo and healing in these lockers. Anyways, how to kill these guys depends on the MTF's behavior. If they're NPCs who are greedy for loot, they will once again split up and that's basically a free win for you. However, if the MTF are locked in, things will be quite more difficult unless you have an 096 teammate. No matter who or what you face, if you have an 096 teammate, your win is basically guaranteed. He can just chill in a long corridor and wait for a group of 10 MTF to pull up and look into his face. He'll hide behind a box to avoid damage whilst raging up and then kill everybody with minimal resistance. And when his rage is about to end, it's essential that he runs to one of his teammates for protection. Like literally, if you have an competent SCP team which includes an SCP-096, it's impossible to lose. I already cried about this in another video, but oh well. Anyways, for the sake of this video, let's say that 096 can't solve all of our problems. This will once again, as you could guess, make things more complicated. It's extremely advised to not fight the MTF in long corridors or open rooms, but instead in smaller curved corridors which will essentially block 80% of the MTF team from mag dumping you. Plus, it makes it harder for the MTF to hit and avoid you due to the chaos of a tight corridor. This is where the things you memorized before this come into mind. You'll use this room to lose a few MTF and then ambush them with one of your teammates you just met up with. Very often, the MTF exhaust all of their stamina chasing a lone SCP and then get demolished by a group of zombies or SCP-096 that just suddenly appear from around a corner. But amidst all of this chaos, an extremely important thing to be careful of is the micro HID room. If you've learned earlier in the round where the chamber is, you can kind of estimate have the MTF found it that took it yet or have they not. It's recommended you leave one SCP to guard it from small groups or solo MTF, but most of the time nobody wants to bother with that. Anyways, assuming you know MTF have gotten the micro HID, you need to activate Ultra Eagle Light mode. If you see anything glow or if you hear any loud mechanical noise, you need to immediately fight or flight. If you're an SCP that can one-shot them like 173 or 99, then you can retreat a bit and kill them when they enter your room before they even manage to fire. If you're 106, you can just teleport the hell out of there and make him waste his charge. And if you're 049, you can either pray you manage to double tap him or run for your life while sacrificing your zombies. Long story short, be very careful of the micro HID and use the doors to slow or block him. Bulkheads are exceptionally useful for this. And though, absolutely never abandon your 096 teammate alone with the micro HID guy or you're never gonna see him again. With the micro avoided and most of the MTF killed in the labyrinth of heavy containment which you used to your advantage, now it's time for rounds 2. If the MTF used SCP items and dealt damage to you or hell even killed one of you, that means they've gathered enough influence points and reduced their timer, meaning a mini wave of them is arriving any second now. Now these mini waves are usually not bigger than 4 or 5 people, but they can definitely make your life harder. However, if the first MTF wave failed horribly, then a mini wave of the chaos team will spawn. Unless the MTF elevator capped this wave, they will be pressured from 2 sides and most of the time will get completely demolished, which then allows you to finish off the few exhausted chaos that survived and lets you win the round. However, if things don't go smoothly and another big wave of your team spawns, then things will once again get more complicated. Now at this point it's basically impossible for me to predict which teams will spawn and how far the round will go on. But don't worry, because you can always win if you follow some key rules. After these multiple engagements in heavy or entrance zone from the previous waves, make sure to regenerate HP, revive some zombies, adjust the elevators and regroup with your team. If everyone's split up whilst a new wave is flooding the facility, things will get ugly really fast. When you're grouped up, make sure to never face any big group head on, and if you really have to, please don't do it in an empty straight corridor, but instead in some place where you can use as much cover as possible whilst running, like for example the doors in entrance zone or the boxes in heavy. Besides avoiding facing big groups head on, also make sure to never get caught in between a fight of 2 enemy teams, and instead approach approach the enemy from away, which will make them shit themselves and run away from their cover, which will lead to them getting gunned down by the enemy team. So yeah, keep exploiting the mistakes of your enemies, splitting up or fighting each other, and also use all of the environment to your advantage to wipe out every wave until you win. The only things that can end your career besides the micro HID and pink candy is the nuke. If a human manually activates it, then 173 or 106 can teleport to it in like 10 seconds. However, if the auto nuke activates, aka the dead man switch, then you'll be forced into the surface zone. Now, unless there's a bazillion people left alive, this will actually help you out a lot. A dead man switch can either activate because 1. There's no influence left on each team, meaning nobody can spawn anymore. Or reason 2 is that the auto nuke has been triggered after 25 plus minutes into the round, but this can be different depending on what server you're playing on. Either way, this will force all of the hiding humans to go into the surface zone where they will be easy targets for you. However, in a scenario that there's a bunch of MTF on the surface zone, then you're in quite a lot of trouble. If this happens, then this side will be your doom and the other one might just let you clutch this. You can use these stairs to confuse the enemies and use them as cover. You can hide in the back of this tunnel to regen hume shield, and you can even ambush clueless enemies by literally jumping on top of them. If the MTF don't all attack you at once and instead attack you in only small groups, then it will be an easy win for you. And if you're on this side, you're basically fucked due to having no cover unless you hide like a pussy in the exit tunnels. Anyways, with all battle scenarios and important factors covered from the start to the end of the round, now let's talk about what each SCP is the best and worst for, plus some bonus SCP tips. As 173, you're the best for dealing with tasks that require high mobility. Is there a lone scientist about to escape? Nope, you Formula 1 to him and snap his neck. Is somebody bullying your boyfriend 079? Nope, you'll arrive to the scene 5 seconds later and 079 will turn off the lights for you for easy kills. You're basically an emergency response unit for the SCP team, especially when it comes to the nuke. But you can also be a good support role for soaking up the damage and allowing your more fragile teammates to push and deal damage. You can also use your tantrums to significantly slow down enemies and turn some corridors into hell to pass through. However, if you try to face a big group alone, you will have exactly 0% chance of survival. As 99, you're the second fastest SCP and are great for flanking or catching up to enemies. You can also set up ambushes with your amnesty cloud or with the pawns to deal with the bigger groups by yourself. So yeah, you're basically a slower version of 173, which is more suited for taking out groups of enemies. As 106, you're basically the most versatile SCP. You can hunt down solo targets easily and can also surprise attack big groups if they aren't paying attention. You're also the only SCP that can walk into an elevator full of grenades and not die, which is great for baiting out all of the grenades that the MTF spawn with. Also, if you use your minimap smartly, you can basically never get lost and can quickly change locations, which makes you the best SCP for solo gameplay. As 196, you can just kill anything unless you make stupid mistakes, and as 049, your main role is being a support role. Your zombies can impressively take quite a beating, especially if you give them your hume shield. Zombies are great for draining out the enemy supplies or for searching for those last few hiding humans. Also, when you revive a zombie, if they paid attention, they can literally dox you to the position of every single human in the facility or the details of the next respawn wave. And at the start of the round, if you wanna maximize the amount of zombies you can revive, make sure to ask your teammates to spare a few humans every now and then so you can revive them. And if you're 079, you're literally the mastermind of the team. Your most important tasks are letting your teammates know where to go and also where the enemies are. And of course, you can lock the doors and turn off the lights to ruin the career of your enemies. However, make sure to keep an eye out on the micro room and your generators. If you have a mic, make sure to literally scream out every single important piece of information, since your teammates usually have really bad hearing due to the chaos of the game. And if you don't have a mic, then make sure to ping stuff. You will be surprised how many things you can ping, from your activated generators to people using the micro or even grenades that are about to explode. But the most important tip is that if you hear a candy bank being used whilst a D-class is sprinting towards you, then make sure to take cover behind a door like this, or otherwise you might get... Now that you know how to be a good SCP teammate and how to fight MTF waves in the most effective way, I would recommend learning the worst mistakes you can do as an SCP and also what is the best SCP in SCP-SL. Shoutout to my patrons Zia69 and Effie, and also shoutout to my channel members Zeko and Newbie. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you next time.